In this video, guys, we're going to talk about joining momentum safely. Stick around. Hey traders, warm welcome to you. Right, so what is momentum and what do we join it safely? So momentum is when you've got strength in a stock or an underlying asset, commodity, currency pair, whatever, and want to join it safely. Now, we're going to define there's two categories of momentum. One is just literally in a relentless bid. It's just going parabolic. We see that with some of the kind of stocks. Sometimes we see it occasionally with like crude oil. We saw it when it went negative kind of last year. But momentum, generally happens. It's just persistent strength or just persistent weakness. And when you're in those high categories of ridiculous momentum, you've got to be careful of the reversals and snapping back, as very often is the case when things get so far away from their mean. But what about normal kind of momentum? How do we join the momentum safely? So we've got to really be mindful that we're not just FOMOing, like I see it going, like got to get in. We've got to be careful of that, because if we do that, then we're really kind of exposing ourselves to more risk. So what I prefer to do with momentum is say to myself, okay, what sort of pullback do I need to see that's not too far that makes me think this thing's reversed completely and it's enough to get me in a sweet spot? That's really the game we're playing, guys. We're trying to find the sweet spot to get into the deal, but not at such a bad point that the whole game's changed. And also, this is why this type of thing here, I've kind of drawn this in on purpose. This is the thing that we want to avoid getting shaken out on. And this is the kind of thing that we really want to try to be positioning where most people are being shaken out of the trade. That's how we need to think. We need to stop thinking of how can I get in this? We need to reframe it in our mind and go, what would have to happen to this to make it look like a big shakeout? And that might be, actually, price does this and then it goes back up. Well, fine. Well, if that's the case, wait for the shakeout. Wait for something that indicates that it's kind of had a look at lows. The supply demand shifted to the downside. They've changed people's perception of it, and then it's reversed back up. So maybe something like you have 50% of that move from the downside, the shakeout move, because what it does is it protects you from this happening, but it also means that when it reverses back up, you can come back in, and of course then you can quantify your risk. Now, the next question of course is, well, how do I determine whether it's a shakeout? How do I determine whether it's something that's considered a kind of a move that's going to shudder people out, but then it's come back in? So this is subjective, guys. Sometimes that might be 2 big days of down move. If you're calling daily candles like this, 2 big days of down move, in which case you're 50% the range, you go right, as it comes back up through 50% the range, I'm back in with a stop below that low. This is slightly different from some of the classic patterns where you might try and time the low because you don't know if momentum is going to continue. And then you're looking for kind of multiple targets to the high side. Anything like that where it's just, if you observed it and you thought, hey, ooh, that looks horrible, that's when you go, right, well, if it recovers half of that, then I'm in. And so you have to see, good persistent strength. And we talked a little bit about this before. The angle of the trend. Momentum isn't really a plodding 45-degree trend. They're nice, but that's a different strategy altogether to get involved in. We're looking at something that's really going into the stratosphere, really accelerating hard, lots of change intraday, holding at highs, and the temptation, like I say, is to jump on it. But sometimes, and also the temptation is to wait for a little pullback. And also, let's discuss this now. There's multiple phases normally. The first phase is that small little kind of flag, little pause, and by that time it might not have come on your radar. It's not as momentum. It's not as, which just a little push, a little drive. Then you get a kind of deeper move, and it's that second and third phase you're looking for. That deeper move that looks like, the game's ended. Everyone's caught out. Everyone's FOMO'd in here. They've all been whipped out here because it's quite a large percentage move. Then it goes back up again. That's when you're taking it because you can quantify your risk on this. Now, of course, if you're trading any asset that closes overnight or over the weekend, you've got that overnight risk, you've got that weekend risk. You have to accept that as part of the deal if you want to trade it that way. Trading intraday, slightly different game. So joining momentum safely is waiting for the momentum to be really underway. And again, my opinion, guys, is how I like to look at this stuff. Wait for it to shudder enough to make it look as if the game's ended, like a big move down. It's like, that's the end of that. Shakes a lot of people out. If it's, if it was just a flash in the pan, they'll just keep going lower. Fine, you're not in the trade. If it then starts to recover after that and it starts to push higher and higher again, that's when you can say, you know what, this isn't a bad setup. I've got a quantified risk under that kind of, capitulation low, if you like. I've seen it get some buyers coming back in, and now I think we're going to take out some highs and play in that game. And it's not perfect, this is a challenging thing to get in, but the assumption is momentum is going to continue. The assumption is that you've kind of shaken out a lot of people, but it's not enough to kind of make the whole thing change direction, and it gives you an opportunity to get in. Like I say, guys, risky type of play, but I think it's something to consider. Let me know your thoughts in that comment section below. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye bye.